In this video, we'll explore the basics of Excel. Now, when I go into Excel, oftentimes I'll be starting it in the Home window, and I may have a data set, or if I'm opening a new file, this is typically where I'll start. My data will be down in the data set where my columns are labeled with letters and my rows are labeled with numbers. Now, as I go to the right for my columns, after I get past Z, I'll start using double letters, and once I use all my double letters, I'd have triple letters. Now, if I look at the top, in the Home tab, this should look very common for the left components. They look very similar to what we would see in Microsoft Word, nothing that's too out of the ordinary. We've got our font and our opportunities to change bolding, underlining, text size, text color, even change the color of a specific cell. Now to this one right here, we can change how our data is put into the cells. Right now it's put in bottom, and then it's typically aligned with whatever that cell specifically chooses at the time. But we can specify. Next, we have our ability to wrap text, which means, say that if I want this so that it will fall in line underneath in case something were to happen, I can push wrap text. And if this box got shrunk, now letter grade would still show up, but it would be in one bigger box. Next one, there's merge and center. So say I wanted to take a couple boxes together. What I can do is I can highlight all the boxes I want to merge, and if I click the merge and center, it becomes one big box that I would type into. Now, if I want to do multiple lines in there, I have to hit Alt, Enter, and that'll take me to the next line. Now, one thing that is important with merging, if you want it to be at the top, you just got to make sure over here on the left that you click the top of line, and then you have the ability to center, left, or right justify. Next comes our ability to change the types of numbers we have. The basic setup is that numbers come up as general, which means it'll accept whatever we put in, however many decimal places. But we can change that. For instance, say I have, I'm just going to put off the side here, 81.43 or 3432. Say I want that to actually come out as currency. If I go to general, I can change to currency and it'll round it to the nearest penny. If I wanted to do a number to a specific number of decimal places, I could click number and I could take away or add decimal places as I want. So there's a lot of options there with just the ability to number. On the right hand side is a very helpful feature as well called the sort and filter. And what I can do is I can take my data and I can sort it specifically for the entire data set, or I can sort it just for a specific row and column. For example, maybe I want to sort my data that is and just influence the name, the test, and the letter grade. So what I would do is I would highlight those three columns and I'd come to sort and filter. Now I could do A to Z, but what it's going to do is just randomly choose one of the columns, typically the very first column. So I want to go to custom sort so I can choose specifically how I want to sort my data. Now right now it tells me my data is being sorted by names from A to Z. But that may not help me if I'm trying to look at, say, the grades of my students and I want to see how are they spread. So I could change this to test score, and what it'll do is it'll pay attention to what is in that column and change how I want to order it. In this case, smallest number to largest number, and that's fine with me. So now I can see how many students made D's, C's, B's, and A's. Now if you look here, my test scores are separated by number. If I had sorted them instead using letter grade, which this could get kind of weird, or I've got all my A's but they're not sorted, what I can do here is I can come into my custom sort and say I want to sort by letter grade, and then I want to sort by the actual score from largest to smallest. That way, it could be, if I've got large data sets, sometimes having a second level can be very helpful in my sort. Now if I look at my other tabs up here, I have the Insert tab, which will allow me to insert some of the basic things that I have in Microsoft Word, clip art, shapes, smart art. Then I have my charts, and we'll get into charts at another time. And we have text boxes, equations, and symbols. Then page layout, just like in Word, we can change our margins, orientation, the breaks in the page, the cells, how they're actually created. Our formulas, we'll get into this tab in another video. Data is one that as you get more advanced and you want to start to do different things with your data, you can find some of those features here in the data. With review, you have the opportunity to protect sheets, and we'll go into more of that at another time, as well as some of the basic features of Microsoft Word like spell check and thesaurus. In our view, we can change how we view our data. One neat feature here in the view that can be very helpful is this freeze panes. And what freeze panes will do is it allows me to freeze, oftentimes I use it for freezing a row or freezing a column. For example, say I want to look at all my data, but I want to make sure I know what is in each row up here. I don't remember all the names. So what I can do is I can freeze that row so that as I go down my data set, I keep that header row, but I can keep looking at all my data so that I can say, okay, I know that Nora made a 66, which was a D. And then I wouldn't have to remember, especially when we get into larger data sets. And that's the thing to remember. A lot of these features come in handy when you have large data sets, more so than just the smaller ones. But it is nice when you have classes of 30 and 40 to be able to freeze either a row or a column to be able to look at all your data. And the last thing is add-ins. And in your add-ins, there are things that you can add to Microsoft Excel that are provided by Microsoft using the options feature. But for now, we'll just say this is where they would show up once you add them in. And that's some of the basics for Microsoft Excel.